Well, hello there and welcome to a brand new show here at WhatCulture. This is the Raw Reflection. Yes, you are not confused. You may have seen me on the NXT Takeaway if you're into that kind of thing. If you're not, then hello for the first time and welcome. I will be your host and I will be taking you through everything that happened on this week's episode of Monday Night Raw. Now, for those of you who have seen the NXT Takeaway, this will be no surprise. But for those of you who haven't, let me introduce you to the first part of the show, which we like to call the Perfect 10, where we run down 10 biggest talking points of Raw this week. In at number one is something very special. Yes, they fucking did it properly this time. The Shield come back in their proper gear. None of this t-shirt friends bollocks. We had full-on SWAT gear. Seth, Dean and Roman all looking very, very badass. We got the old theme, Sierra Hotel, India, Echo, Lima, Delta, Shield. Oh. Lots of stuff to be happy about there. And the only thing we probably want to maybe avoid is Cool Hand Luke is back and Roman is like, yeah, I'm hard as nails, Roman, and even Seth has to give him a little, whoa, big dog, settle down. Anyway, the Shield called out Miz and Co, and before anything could kick off, Kurt Angle intervened, got right in the middle of it, and decided that he wasn't going to let that happen, and everybody wasn't allowed to touch each other until the matches later on in the night. In number two, we had the band back together, or back for the first time, whichever you like to say it. It was the Good Brothers, it was Elias, it was in the middle of the ring, it was great. Anderson's rendition of the Honky Tonk Man was pretty fucking good, you have to say. What a guy, and Gallows obviously in the background. Nerds! It was all very comical, and obviously Elias, as always, providing the strumming. The song they ended up doing was a little jibe towards the Titus brand and of course Jason Jordan, which of course was swiftly followed by the three of them coming out for a match, which to be fair, I would class as pretty forgettable. Now, as a man who's barely watched any 205 Live, yes, I'm guilty as charged, I will hold my hands up. 205 Live is not how I choose to spend the rest of my free time. Now, because I haven't been super saturated by 205 Live, I was really impressed with the video package and the story that seems to be brewing between Alexander and Gallagher. Gallagher's heel turn, I like that. I like the fact he's wrestling in his normal, gentleman gear. I think that's an interesting take. Curtis Alexander, his problem remains to be the same. In the ring, he's got all the skills to pay the bills, but does he have the charisma? And number four, it's the most must-see television show in the whole of WWE. It's Miz TV. His guests were Sheamus and Cesaro, along with Big Bad Braun. The one gripe I have with this is, why are they making Cesaro talk with his mouthpiece in? I think a better gimmick, surely, for me, would be if he just didn't talk and they did like a little, here's the mic, and he kind of goes at it, and then he doesn't do anything. That would be so much funnier for me. Instead, we just got a guy who talks like this because he's wearing a mouthpiece, and yeah, the bar, yeah, the bar, yeah, the bar. It doesn't work for me, and I don't think it works for Cesaro either. Miz tried to turn the match into a 5-on-3 rather than a 4-on-3. He was cut short by Kurt Angle, who said they would have to earn that fifth member if they were going to get it, which meant Braun Strowman had to beat Roman Reigns in the main event in a steel cage. However, if Braun lost the match, then it suddenly went back to being 3 versus 3. The stakes got very high and it made an investment for all of us in that final match. Enzo Amore bemoaning his title loss comes in at number 5. Poor old Enzo, what a hard time he's having. A guy who has little to no ability in the ring is given the Cruiserweight title. As a result, we get no more Neville, so yeah. Kalisto came down to the ring, and unfortunately, this was not much of an improvement, as Kalisto declared that he was going to become the new Cruiserweight champion. I appreciate it must be difficult for a man who doesn't speak English, but just don't put him in that position. Either way, dumb or not, he got his arse handed to him by a bunch of guys who seemed to be on Enzo's payroll. Mustafa Ali came for the save, and then he got beat up as well, because it's 1 man against 6. All that said, still not much of a shit given about the Cruiserweight division, but Enzo's presence has given them some sort of spotlight, and I suppose they're going to run with that for the time being. Number 6, we have got the Boys from the Shield defending their tag team titles against Sheamus and Cesaro. Now, the Shield boys with the tag titles in the Shield gear, standing there like badasses, was just... oh. And I have to say, I didn't think that was going to be topped. I thought the fact that they were together and running the show, looking the part, I thought that was going to be where I was like, it was all me Wallace moments in one. However, there was one more that was even better, and that was Sheamus and Cesaro doing their Super Saiyan power-up, which was just fantastic. The match ended as a Shield win, but more importantly, Another good match between those two guys, and the Shield looking great. Cesaro, Sheamus looking great. Good business for everybody. Now it's time for Balor and his bracing of the big bad Bray. Yes, Finn came to the ring to address the fact that Sister Abigail had arrived. We've already had Bray, who's decided he's going to be dressing up as somebody else. Finn, a guy who already dresses up as something already, has decided he's going to do it to another degree. Max Landis had it right when he said, "These are questions you don't have to ask because wrestling isn't real." Nevertheless, Bray will be turning up as Sister Abigail, Finn will be turning up as Demon 2.0. This picture will tell you everything you need to know in the fact that we will be witnessing the fantasy booking of a pumpkin versus Chewbacca. In at number 8, we had some advancements in the women's division. Sasha Banks and Alicia Fox went head to head. It seems like Crazy Like a Fox is going to be the new thing. It's on the t-shirt that Alicia's had released, and it seems like that's what they're going to be running with. Those two had what I would probably describe as like a nothing match. Sasha got the win, and then later on we had a little bit of a promo in the back. Alicia Fox beat up Sasha and then pushed the referee who tried to stop her and started acting like a crazy person, shouting and screaming. I think that's what she seems to be good at. She cray cray. She that cray cray, y'all. That said, that was followed up by Mickie James teaming up with Bayley to face Alexa Bliss and Emma. The tag match was pretty much designed to have Mickie James kind of go over in terms of she needs to look like a legitimate threat to Alexa before the match on Sunday, even though we all know what's going to happen. We know that Mickie James is probably not going to be Alexa Bliss, and then to follow that up, we're kind of just going to be keeping Bliss on the title so that Asuka can come in, who's probably going to make light work of Emma, and kick the bejesus out of Alexa, which will be delightful. At number 9, it's a mixed bag for me. It's Curtis Axel. Basically, Curtis Axel was out to prove himself so he could be the 5th member of that team should Braun Strowman win the match against Roman Reigns. And the guys kind of ended up coaxing Axel into feeling like he should go out there, find Roman Reigns and beat him up. Axel bit and decided, I'm going to go find Roman Reigns, I'm going to beat him up. So off he went, tootled around the backstage for a little bit and found not Roman Reigns, but found all of the Shield. We saw The Miz talking to Sheamus, Cesaro and Braun Strowman, and they were explaining where they'd sent the Axeman. Miz finally did find Axel, and he'd been hung from a forklift upside down with his top off, and he'd obviously been beaten like, you know, I'm not sure where I stand with that from the Shield. They're funny, but also kind of sadistic and not very face-like. Anyway, the whole point of this was, while The Miz was tending to Axel with a bunch of referees, Renee Young decided to interview him, and he proclaimed that Curtis Axel was not who he had in mind as the 5th member of the team should Braun win. So the question is, who was going to be the 5th? So in at the perfect 10, it was the main event between Roman Reigns and Braun Strowman in a steel cage. Were they going to be 5-on-3? Was it going to be 3-on-3? And most importantly, who was the 5th member going to be? The Miz was on commentary, so you knew shenanigans were going to be happening, but for this match, all of the other guys had been banned from ringside from interfering. Reigns and Strowman, typical match in the ring, beating each other up for a while. Reigns was getting the upper hand, tried to leave the cage. Sheamus and Cesaro stormed the ring, stopped him. The other Shield brothers, Dean and Seth, came and stopped them guys from stopping Roman. That was a big kerfuffle. They ended up going backstage, at which point Miz followed them and locked all 4 of them in some kind of backstage area, and The Miz came out with a big grin on his face, and you just knew something was awry. Eventually we got back to the action in the ring, and it was Strowman and Reigns again was getting the upper hand, nailed Strowman with a spear, only for flames and orange lights to engulf the ring. Who could possibly be? That's gotta be Kane! And yes, it was Kane. And guess where he came from? He didn't come from ringside, he came from under the ring. What a shocker, Kane basically lives under the ring. Yes, Kane came back with little to no explanation other than the fact you might want to assume that it's got something to do with Reigns retiring The Undertaker. And then basically Braun got involved as well, and I think the tally ended up being 2 choke slams, 1 tombstone and 2 brawny power slams before Reigns took the pin, which means the 5 guys who will be facing the Shield at TLC will be Kane, Braun Strowman, The Miz, Sheamus and Cesaro. One big, really wonderful thing from all of that came was the final shot, Braun Strowman and Kane standing over the top of Roman Reigns. Those 2 guys, what a tag team they would be. I'm just saying, they would be fucking excellent. Can you see how big and nasty they would be? Brothers of Destruction 2.0, anybody? I think I want a bit of that. Bludgeon Brothers, eat your fucking heart out. So that's it for the perfect 10. It's time to find out what questions you guys wanted answered. We asked, you sent them in, and this is the part we like to call the Twitter takeover. So the first question comes from @Joshua, who says, if Kane is a mainstay on the main roster, should he team up with Braun or should he team up with Bray Wyatt? Well, 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 there's an interesting question. One which needs very little thought. Bye-bye, Bray Wyatt. I'm sorry, I appreciate your career does need saved, as Joshua did say in his tweet. However, Braun Strowman and Kane, as I mentioned, look at those two guys standing over Roman Reigns. Big, nasty fuckers with bad intentions. They could literally tear up the entire division. Kane would be relevant again. Strowman would just be Strowman being a badass. How that wouldn't work, I don't know. But who knows? I would like to see it. Will it happen? Probably not. We'll have to wait and see, but I'm pretty sure this is a one-time deal. The next question comes from @HackyUser97. That's as good as my pronunciation is going to get with that one. They want to know, what is my opinion of TLC's main event? So the big deal here is if the Shield loses, they've got the Shield back together to lose, and then these 5 guys win, I don't know what we achieved. However, if the Shield win and the other 5 guys lose, including Braun Strowman, who's a badass, like has been tearing it up and almost beat Brock Lesnar. You've got Kane, who's just Kane. Don't need to say any more about him. Miz is the IC champion. Sheamus and Cesaro are great in their own right. That's 5 really good wrestlers. I mean, it doesn't really make sense. The whole thing kind of feels Survivor Series-ish. It feels almost like it's a pay-per-view early. I don't know what they're going to do here. I mean, the Shield seem like the guys you'd want to run with because that's the fans love them. Is there going to be some sort of shenanigans? Yes, undoubtedly. I could only see the Shield winning if somehow like the other 5 guys couldn't agree. The Miz pissed somebody off and a couple of them leave. I don't know. I'm not sure. It's a tough one. It really is a tough call. If you had to put me on the spot, I'm going to go with the Shield only because I'm biased, because I want to see them win. I'd have to say there's going to have to be some sort of dramatic shenanigans for that to happen. But this is WWE, and there's always shenanigans. So the final question comes from @TheWarden124, and while it's a bit of a tongue-in-cheek one, very much a plausible question, they say, how fast is Emma going to lose to Asuka at TLC? In this match, I think the best for business approach surely would be to have Asuka look strong and dominate Emma. Vince isn't always a fan of following on the NXT sort of storylines, and yes, Asuka's undefeated, but it wouldn't surprise me if Vince just decided, yeah, fuck it, we'll just end it. Surprise, shocker, Emma wins. But to answer the question, if I'm being a realist, I would say it's probably going to be a short match. I would imagine under 5 minutes is my guess. But you never know, it might be one of those. Bell rings, Asuka kick, Emma out, good night, and Asuka's a badass. We'll have to wait and see. Now let's move on to the final part of the show where we look at the biggest talking point from this week's episode of Raw and analyse what it means moving forward. I like to call this section The Reflection. So for the reflection this week, I've gone for the return of the Big Red Machine. Yes, Kane is back once again. Are we happy? Are we sad? I still haven't figured it out yet. I'm pretty sure I'm not happy about it, but it's Kane, and he's a great guy, and he's nice, and he's got that lovable attitude that we all... It's Kane. Kane's back. But yeah, Kane's return, more so the implications that it has on the TLC match this Sunday. Again, you can only really assume that Kane's main driving force is probably going to be the fact that Roman Reigns retired The Undertaker, that's his brother. Is that the thing? I don't know. That seems like it might be the only thing. But it's just the fact that we haven't had enough explanation for me. It feels rushed, it feels unjustified. What does it mean for that match itself? Well, we've got 5 guys now who are facing the Shield. It's made it all really weird. It's made me question who's going to win. I don't see why we haven't just got a 3-on-3 to start the Shield off. I feel like that would be better, but even the 4-on-3 felt like a stretch. Now it's a 5-on-3, just feels weird. I'm not sure where they're going with it, but in wrestling, that's not a bad thing because it's nice to feel like I don't know what's going on all the time. I feel like, I don't know, it makes me feel uneasy because I feel like they're going to cock it up. However, it also makes me feel excited because you don't know what's happening. They've got me where they want me. I'm going to fucking watch on Sunday, aren't I? Because I'm a sucker for that. And we'll have to wait and see. So that is it for this week's episode and the very first episode of the Raw Reflection. Did you enjoy it? We want to know, so please let us know in the comments below. Thanks for stopping by. I've been Adam Nicholas. This has been the Raw Reflection, and we'll see you next time.
I am defiant.
I am defiant.
I am defiant. Defiant. I am defiant.
I am defiant.
I am
the villain. We are defiant.